There it is. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and one of us is tired, and the other one is retired. How about that?
Whoa. You're not so tired. You must be the retired one because that was really a sharp comment. That was smart.
I don't know. I get sharper when I'm tireder. I don't know how that works.
So you're the tired one.
Yeah.
Oh.
But either way, we've been bringing tired as.
Oh, no, that's actually starting to sound even.
That doesn't sound good.
No, that sounds actually worse than normal.
We'll just say we've been bringing the as since 2009,
and we're very good at it. I think.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, someday we'll find out. If anyone knows what that is, please let us know.
You need to ask Austin, although I don't remember which Austin to ask at this point.
Just go to Texas. You're bound to find it.
Yeah, there's got to be. I used to say Austin. I used to call Tejas Gaja Austin Tejas. In Austin. And it's kind of like he is kind of an ostentatious kind of guy.
Wow, that's a multifaceted. You sure you're tired?
I am definitely tired.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll just our guests do all the talking. And
well, you know what? I'm kind of tired because we're missing a part of the show that livens me up a little bit.
Oh no, Sven!
He was on a roll. He was 2 weeks in a row, I believe.
You know what I'm guessing? He was thrown by the fact that I got it wrong. I was like completely off on that one. And the irony was, Stump the Godfather, I got it about as close as you're going to get it without getting it right. But couldn't get any closer, 73 instead of 72. So, well, it was ironic. I reversed my usual because I always get Stump the Godfather wrong.
You gave it the old college try.
I came close. Yeah, unfortunately, it was probably a Division III college.
Well, and you we like to say, this is a special CRM Players because over the last 3, if not 4 years, we've got on the road. Wait a minute, I feel something's missing. I need to do something before I start talking about this. Let me try this.
All right. Oh wow.
Unlike any other. Not that one, ours. For the past 4 years, we've had the CEO and founder of Pega. I'm trying to do my Jim Nance. You notice I tried.
I know it's not quite going there. Keep working at it. It's okay.
I'll speak with hushed tones.
That's it.
But we are a month out, literally 1 month out from PegaWorld, and that means we are glad to welcome the one and only Alan Trefler. I'm getting better now.
That was getting there. It was a little closer. You tuned right into the point in the music where that worked.
So we will be spending 30 minutes with Alan Trefler to talk about anything he wants to talk about. But I'm sure AI and PegaWorld are going to come up in that discussion.
All right, let me the averse.
Oh wow, it's going to start all over again.
Yeah, I don't think that I would have been tired at the end of that.
I started. You know what? Every time I hear that music, I feel like it's Sunday afternoon because Sunday afternoon at the Masters. You kind of get that. You need to get a nice beverage of choice and sit down and watch golf. And anyway, but before we have Alan join us, we have a few housekeeping things to do. Next week, I'll be going to ServiceNow Knowledge World. You know, that thing that you used to go to?
Yeah, I remember back in the good old days, or maybe good old days.
So
I like that one.
Yeah, I'll be on the scene there and doing some few good minute eps. I'm seeing my calendar filling up as we speak here. But one thing that you will still be doing, even if it is virtually, is
a
CRM Players. What I just snagged that. Doesn't he look so welcoming, Bill McDermott?
Yeah, that whole thing works. That
what he looks like He looks like that's a cool looking CEO when you think about it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's that hair actually is 90% of that. It's the hair. That's what does it.
And the jacket, you know.
Yeah, well, the whole look. I mean, the
Yeah, it's just the whole
sunglasses
look.
he wears because of his eye, but
Looks good though.
But no, that's the thing. I mean, he turned what was a actual, you know, horrible accident into a stylish look.
Yeah, he almost looks like he could be like the cool bad guy villain on a Marvel comics movie.
Not Thanos though. He's not.
No, he don't have.
No, don't go there.
Just like, you know, like what was the one with the good doctor and the bad doctor? The mutants folks.
Yeah.
He looks like he could be a good what's that? Oh man, I am so missing that guy's name.
It was a Jekyll and Hyde thing. But
no, it's two different guys. It's the one with the mutant folks, like with the guy that played not the wolf, but oh my gosh, that whole universe. Oh my goodness.
So you tell wait, the good doctor.
He was the guy in the good doctor was in the wheelchair.
Yeah, that was Xavier is the bad guy.
Yeah.
No,
Xavier
was the good guy. Xavier, what was his last damn name? I mean, I just know it Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, but he was in the wheelchair. He was the good guy. And
it was his brother. His brother was the other one.
Sir Ian, what's his
Ian
last
McKellen.
name? Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Magneto.
Magneto. There it is.
Magneto.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, Magneto.
God damn. Yeah, that was it.
He would look like so he could be the Iron Man.
No, he's not a Tony Stark. That does not work.
Yeah, that's we all know who that was kind of modeled after. Mr. Tesla.
Oh. Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah. With Magneto, he looks like he could be a cool bad guy like Magneto.
That's it, Magneto McDermott.
That's kind of a cool.
I was about to say it kind of works.
Mac.
That's right, Mad Mac, and now we'll get into Mad Max, and we'll get into deserts and fast cars.
Well, we'll save all that for next week. But anyway, what we're trying to do with these virtual watch parties, people seem to really like. You know what they seem to like? Just kind of how we banter throughout the whole thing. Some people like that. But I put up, we did one with Tableau, and it was a Crunch watch party.
Right.
With Rebecca Wetterman and Patrick and Dave Smith and Biscuit. Well, actually, I don't think they were actually there, but
No, because Dave and
Biscuit,
Rebecca were actually there.
No, I think Rebecca was there. I don't know. Dave seemed like he was somewhere, but not there.
Not at Tableau? Oh, okay.
I don't think he was at Tableau. It could be. I don't know. But anyway, so I put up a little, like a highlight reel of kind of our initial thoughts and put them up on CRM magazine site, Destination CRM. And people seem to like that. So what we're going to try to do, it does take a little bit of work, but maybe the day after we do the watch parties, we're going to try to put those quick so people could get a really quick hit of our initial impressions. And you know why I think it's really important? I don't know if you thought about this. You probably have, but
not.
I was thinking about this, and it all stems from. Remember, we did our first ever dual watch party.
Yeah,
when Adobe was what the summit was going on with. I was like, I see our guest in the green room, and then I said that's not really him. So maybe they're doing some testing or something. Because I think they're making sure, because the last time I did one of these with our buddy Don, sure, man, we had some technical issues, but hopefully we can get all it worked out. But anyway, I started thinking about, we did Adobe Summit and we did NVIDIA GTC.
Right.
They had them at the same time. So it actually kind of worked out well when you think about for us.
Yeah.
But I started thinking about it mainly because of the 40 million views that Jensen Huang got. And I was like, not everybody's going to be able to do that, right?
No.
Like command that many. But when you think about all these vendor events throughout the year, the opening keynote is like the one their best opportunity to get a hold of a significant large audience and tell their story. And usually about an hour and a half or less. Because you're not going to get, like everybody's attention during, because if you go into the more of the event, you got all these sessions going on, you got tracks. So the attention is distributed throughout all the stuff. But the opening keynote is the kind of the one opportunity that they have all eyes on them. And now that we're doing virtual, it's not just the thousands of people in the audience, it's the potential millions of people. Well, like I said, not everybody's going to be able to command that kind of audience, but you can potentially reach thousands of more people for that 1 hour because everybody kind of pays attention to the opening keynote. So I think what we do with these watch parties, because all we do is do the watch party for the opening keynote, because we can do more than that. But us watching it and then giving our thoughts around, and it's not just you and me, it's like our own
whoever we can recruit.
Yeah, it's the PPN universe.
That's right.
So, and getting each person to kind of quickly share their initial thoughts and what they like, what they didn't, what was important, what they could have done less with, and then condensing that into a clip, and then we can put that out there on CRM Magazine. It actually gives people another thing that they can tune into that won't take a lot of their time up, but will give them a sense. But I wonder if the vendors think in those terms. Like, do they think the opening, do they put as much importance on the opening keynote as maybe they should? What do you think?
Well, I think for the most part, no, but yes, in certain cases. Look, Salesforce always got that because of Mark.
Yeah.
Right. They always knew they had him, and they put enormous focus on that keynote. It's actually interestingly diminished a bit over the last few years, but still, it's in the forefront of everything they're doing. I think that what vendors do know, although it varies from the standpoint of the quality of the keynotes, is that whatever is said by that individual, it's going to have to last a year, basically, till the next one, right? And so that it becomes of strategic importance. And the ones don't fully get it, I think, are the ones when you see that the keynote presenter is basically just doing a bunch of product demos or something related to that, and then they don't get it. Obviously, at that point, they think that their job is to sell stuff, in a manner of speaking, on stage, and that is not the job of these keynotes. To your point, if you listen to Jensen's keynote, he was talking about all their chips and stuff, but he was putting it in a visionary way, right, where you could see the future of the entire world based on him. I mean, I'm only surprised that he didn't get deeply into quantum mechanics in the course of it, right? That's the only thing I'm shocked he didn't. Because he, interesting enough, even though he's a little bit more entertaining, but he and Larry Ellison actually have an oddly similar approach. They're very technical, both of them. And Larry's gotten more visionary over the last few years, right? So he's actually improved what he's done, because I think Oracle has understood, even though they have Safra doing the keynote now, but
Larry does his own thing,
right?
And because he's Larry,
that's
people
the
pay
keynote
as equal attention, if not more so, to him.
I think it's more.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, no disrespect to Safra, but Larry Ellison is a pioneer, and everyone knows that. And so I think whatever day he speaks on is the day of the keynote, right? Whatever it is, Sunday night, Tuesday morning, right? Right, whatever it is. So I think it's kind of mixed. I think the majority of the vendors don't really understand the magnitude of what they need to say and do. On the other hand, I all think they understand the importance of it, if you know what I mean.
I think they understand the importance of it to them, meaning what key points do they want to get out?
Right.
But telling, I'm almost feeling like I'm channeling Jeff Gomez and Alan Berkson, telling a full-blown story and putting it in that hour, and not just you weave in your key points, but it's got to be in the overall context of what what's the big picture message that you want your customers to remember after they or feel through their keynote? I don't think enough of them think like that.
I don't think any of them think like except Salesforce, right? Even McDermott. Look, McDermott is actually a very good speaker, but he's selling all the time on the stage. You see that, and at the same time, it's not like you sit there and say, "Oh, that's a terrible speech." It's not. He gives a good speech, but when he does begin to approach the visionary stuff, he's great, right? He gets all of a sudden, it's like a whole other level for him.
You know, I think there's a certain level of charisma. Like we're going to be talking to somebody in like 15 minutes that has that level of charisma and has the ability to captivate folks either in the arena or online virtually, because he's just himself. Some of these folks, you don't really get the feeling that they are comfortable enough with to put themselves out there in that kind of thing.
Well, I will tell you this. I can tell you almost every keynote, keynote and major speech at a conference by a senior executive is overmanaged. I literally, this is a true story. I was at an event one time and I walked in by accident on a rehearsal with a very senior executive of IBM who's speaking the next day. And in the rehearsal, part of the rehearsal was he's saying something and then he goes, "Oh, wow, I just thought of a really funny joke." And then he tells the joke. And so that was rehearsed. Okay. "Oh, wow, I just thought of," right? So the next day I'm sitting with this journalist and I said to him, because I knew what was coming, I said, "You know what? I'm guessing he's going to come up with something really funny now." Right. And then he goes, "Oh, wow, I just thought of a funny joke." And the guy looked at me like, "What? How the hell?" Like I was some sage, you know. I told him the truth. That's what I'm saying. I mean, when you're overmanaged to that level, and unfortunately, I don't think that's a unique individual experience. You know, I mean, all of the level of fear of saying anything that would be upsetting to shareholders for the most part is just overwhelming with this stuff, and it's ridiculous too. Because these 90% of the people, talk to them in person is one thing, watch them on stage there, it's completely other thing.
I mean, like I know you got talking points. I know there's things you need to get across, but I think there's a way to do it in a much more entertaining and holistic. Like it shouldn't be bang, 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 might get our talking points out, bang, bang, bang. It's like set the stage, man. Tell the story. I mean, weave them into the story, but have a story, not just talking points, I think.
Look, I mean, there are companies that get that in a holistic sense too when it comes to the conferences. Like, for example, if you remember over the years, we always heard how amazing it was because we're going to have customers speaking on this, and this. And they forgot one thing. And I still remember this with PeopleSoft and this guy from Charles Schwab, which was the guy from Charles Schwab gave the worst speech I've ever heard in my life. It was horrible, right? And here's the thing that I think these companies, they are so brand, blinded that they forget these people have to know how to speak, right? It's not like they can just get on a stage just because and how many times have we seen senior executives from customer companies be awful on stage? It's like over and over and over again. Or on the opposite side of that same coin, how many of the vendors will bring out a brand that's just tone deaf? Oh, God, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You need to.
It's a great brand name. Everybody knows the brand name, but dude, that person is terrible at relaying the story. Oh.
And not only that, you probably didn't even want to talk about the brand name. I won't say who it was, but like Bentley in the middle of a recession, right? So as your or Louis Vuitton and your $1,000 sneakers, right? So I don't do that. That's stupid.
I know.
I mean, straight out. So to your point, if they learn maybe we should tell them to all hire Jeff and Alan. Everyone go hire Jeff Gomez and Alan Berkson because they not only know how to tell the story, they know how to craft it. And if you want to do some crafting of your conversations, then have the first understand it's a conversation with an audience, which is why Brian Solis is always so good, because you can communicate with audiences.
Yeah.
And second, as Brent put it, tell a story, man. Don't just sit there and get across your talking points. You have a PowerPoint slide you can give people later on that one.
You know what? Just listen in about 8 minutes. Listen to our guest, because he's the perfect example how you want to do it. You want to
and also, interestingly enough, his company conferences are more often than not perfect examples of how to do it overall. Especially their customer choices have been the best in so many different times and places. Just amazing.
Now, before we do that, no, we're before we even do that
yet. Okay,
I want to give you an opportunity.
I'll keep my smile going.
I want to give you an opportunity to set up the change that has taken place with Talking Headless.
Oh yeah, so as of this morning, May 1st, there is a new host for Talking Headless. I abdicated the throne, right? I'm going into retirement. I'm going to a small island off Malta right now. I'm going to sit on the beach. No, actually, Shashi Bellamkonda, who is a very well-respected analyst, who remembered, we reminisced how we met, which I had totally forgotten about, but I remember now. And Shashi Bellamkonda will be taking over Talking Headless. For now, it's going to be the same format, same name, but he'll be handling it. But it's up to him to change it as he wants. It was time, from my standpoint, I wanted to move on to some other shows and projects within PPN, and do some other things broadly with the network. And so I thought it was time for me to step away. And I'm not, I'm just not as active an analyst as I was, right? So, and Shashi, he's terrific. I mean, if you read his stuff, it's just spot on. It's well written. It's smart. It's insightful. And he's a humble, sweet guy too. And he's quieter than I am and talks a little less, but he's very articulate, and he comes across in a way, it's very different than my thing, but he comes across in a way that's really, really, really kind of, I don't know how to put this. It engages you, but it's quiet. That's the only way to put it. You'll see on May 28th at noon, the first show will begin with under Shashi. So congratulate Shashi Bellamkonda. Awesome man.
I think I'm getting close to 20 years of knowing Shashi.
We figured out I was 2015, so I'm 7 maybe.
Okay.
And what is that? 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, 2015.
I met him at this. Remember that Cisco product where you could do like almost like a holographic.
Yeah,
I met him at that.
It was Tell Us Something.
We couldn't remember the name, but I met him. Tanya Kozviel was actually doing that, and I was there, and Malin Fung was there, and he was there, and Ray was there, and Brian was there, right? And I had forgotten that was when we met, but once he said it, I remembered completely, and and I remember that thing, and it didn't go anywhere, did it?
No, but that's okay. By the way, Sven looks like said LinkedIn was having some hiccups.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, Sven, we see you put one up, but we missed a moment of Sven this week, so we'll try to have it next week because we got to do one thing before we bring our guest on. Do you have any idea what that is?
I have no idea. Of course not.
And
wow!
It's time for
totally
Stump the Godfather.
Did not expect it.
The venerable Paul Greenberg, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
Hey, look, our guest was bopping along the Benny Hill. I just wanted to tell you in the green room. I saw him. He had a smile on his
That
face.
Doesn't make me like Stump the Godfather anymore.
I thought it might have a little.
Not a bit. But I'm glad he likes Benny Hill.
How can you not like Benny?
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right. This week, Stump the Godfather. For a second there, I thought I messed up, but I didn't. All right. Microsoft just came out with their earnings report. They blew it out. I mean, I think they made 72 billion in the quarter or some crazy. Was it 49 billion? Yeah, I think it was 49 billion in the quarter. Something crazy. crazy number. So I, this is kind of I'm still trying to transition into my full blown digging into scripts. So I was checking out the transcripts of the earnings call, and a number just blew out to me. Everybody's doing AI, all this processing going on, all these tokens being used. So this past quarter, Microsoft processed over 1 trillion tokens.
100 trillion.
100 trillion tokens. It's such a big number. I messed it up. 100 trillion tokens this quarter, up 5x year over year, including a record blankety blank trillion tokens last month alone. Sven has already put his guess in.
Wow.
I didn't even get the question out all the way. But so the question is, how many were done this last month? And the key is, it's a record, so it's going to be a pretty big number.
Hey,
so,
Sven,
we'll
give you a second chance on that one. Think about it. If it's 100 trillion and it's even, it's 33 minimum, right? So 14, it can't be a record. It's literally 19 below what it minimally is.
Well,
right? So
you're a nice guy.
Take another crack at it.
You're a nice godfather for letting him do that. I tell you, I wouldn't have done that, but it's named after you, so we'll let you go with that.
Thank you.
Bob Fagel, 45 trillion tokens last month alone. Hey, and our guest, if you want to take a guess, put it in the private chat, and I'll let folks know. So we got 14, we got 45. Anybody else out there? Oh yeah, do the math. Ryan Ratto is saying 41 trillion. Okay. So we got 41, 45. Well, you really Sven bumped it all the way up to 104.
That's also he knows
a little too high.
No, that was deliberate. That's deliberate on Sven.
Are you sure?
Yeah, okay. I am positive. That's
all right.
100% Sven punking us.
Well, that would be quite the punk because I bought it. All right, 100. All right, so we got everything from 14 to 114 with 41 and 45 in there. So what do you want to take a shot?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Bob took my shot. That was the one I was going to say.
That's why Paul.
Whoa!
I don't know how to take that. That's okay.
He's punking again. So I'll just because Bob already took the number I was going to throw out there, I'll up it a tiny bit. I'll up it to 49.
So we got 41, 45, 49. Yeah. And I'll take the average of 14 to 1, which would be 128. So that would be 64.
All right. That would be huge.
All right. And the answer to this week's Stump the Godfather question is
50. I was off by one again.
So you were off by one last week too, weren't you?
I know. Yeah. One a week, man. I'm off.
That's not bad. 50. I mean, think about that. 50
That's insane.
Trillion tokens in 1 month. I wonder what next month is going to be.
That's a lot of subway rides.
Yeah. And when I think of Subway, I actually think of sandwiches. So
I know. I was about to say that New Yorkers would never think that way.
50 trillion. So you were very close. You get that's 2 weeks in a row. You get a win.
I'm really liking this game now.
Now all of a sudden, yeah, it took 2 years to actually like.
No, I liked it in the beginning because I was getting it right a lot in the beginning.
I mean, how do they even come up with these numbers?
I don't even know how you can identify the damn numbers.
I don't either.
They probably what do you call it? Perfected quantum computing, and they're just not telling anyone.
I was waiting for you to say I'm surprised it wasn't like 50.7 trillion or something.
Yeah, no, that would be Gartner estimate.
All right,
next year, 50.793.
You are on a roll. Two out of 2 the last 2 weeks. So that's why it's called Stump the Godfather.
That's right.
All right. Now we gotten through that.
Stump the Godfather.
Now that we gotten through that, now you know usually when we bring on this particular guest, I get a treasure trove of little clips from previous years. You know what? I didn't want to do that. So before I turn it over to you to introduce our guest, I did find a clip I found pretty interesting. You know, it doesn't go back to 2020. Doesn't go back to 2015. Doesn't even go back to 2010. You know what this goes back to?
No.
2006.
Holy cow.
Closing statement by our guests at PegaWorld 2006.
Oh,
Ready for this? Ready for this?
Yeah, I am. This one I'm really interested in.
Because I think we're going to be able to ask him a question that just substitute one word for AI and see if it still fits. All right, here we go.
Okay.
In wrapping up, let's take a moment and think about the theme of what we were here to talk about.
I'd start this over again. I hate StreamYard is having some issues with going to videos. Let's try this.
That's because they doubled their price.
In wrapping up, let's take a moment and think about the theme of what we were here to talk about, what we saw, what we heard, and what this actually means for the future. You know, the theme was fast forward, and I think the premise, which is I've been to the sessions and heard the feedback and drunk lots and lots of wine with a variety of customers. I think the theme, which would appear to be validated, is the notion that BPM can fast forward an organization, can make an organization far more effective, far more able to get done what it needs to get done in ways that will differentiate, in ways that will kick the butt of the competition, and in ways that will save money. And it's a wonderful and rare opportunity to have that chance for the sort of dramatic, transformational technology moment that Connie spoke about this morning, that we have heard from many wonderful organizations that they are living with and actually executing. And from our point of view, frankly, it's a little bit exciting and a little bit daunting. You know, we feel a real responsibility to our customers and to our partners to make sure that we take the work that's been done to this date and grow it and build on it to make sure that we can give you the tools you need to really take advantage of this transition.
Do you know what word I was thinking we could probably ask him if we could switch out and put AI and see if it still fits?
What? I'm sort of have an idea, but go ahead.
Well, I guess it's three initials or three.
Right.
Yeah, BPM.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I mean, that would be the only word in there that you could.
We'll ask him. We'll ask about that. But after you do the official introduction,
I actually have two questions for him too. Who's Connie, and does he still drink a lot of wine? Right. So,
well, I might know the answer to one of those. But.
So, I mean, keep in mind, this is the fourth straight year I'm doing an introduction of Alan. So, you got to realize something. Like, this is literally one of my favorite shows every year because of what Brent has said earlier. Alan is like, he's just himself, and he's one of these people that I've known him. I don't know, it's got to be 15 years or by now. I've even done keynote panels at this conference, and and I know Alan and I had a conversation about that at one conference too. I once did a luncheon with Alan, internal luncheon where we had some customers, and I said something and he didn't like it. And so he stood up and argued with me. I mean, I still remember it was like the nicest argument I've ever had, though. It was like really friendly, even though he was, Alan, I will tell you something. He's built a really genuinely impressive company, an astonishing company. He's a true believer in the best sense of the word when it comes to that company, meaning, he will fight for its defense unless, if something happens, he'll fix it if he has to fix it. But he's always been a visionary, which is something that when you hear BPM, you don't think visionary particularly, because of the nature of what BPM was and is and will continue to become. But he's moved the company through stages, so to speak, that have been absolutely appropriate and in line with and slightly ahead of the market all the time. And then he builds out, with his overall strategies and also his very good C-level executives, he builds out kind of the storyline. And that's the thing, to Brent's earlier point, Pega always has a story and their customers provide the story. Alan provides the story. Don Sure Man provides the story. And Alan's been the founder of all of that. And he's taken the company to a really good place. And again, look, honestly, in my last year, and this is informal, so there's no award for it particularly, but my product of the year was Blueprint. as far as I was concerned. It was Blueprint. And I looked at a lot of products last year, right? So
I made one, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and well, Brent, you're always, whenever there's a product of interest, you're right in there. I'm less ambitious than you on that stuff, and so I always count on your results, not my own. So this is Alan Trefler, and the thing is, he will just straight out tell you what he needs to tell you, and he's also a really, really, really personable human being. So, and one I just really like a lot and always have. So let's bring him on. Wow. Grandmaster Alan
Trefler with the Playaz. Hey, what's going on, Alan?
It's lots is going on. We're in the build up to PegaWorld, and so everybody is working super hard. How are you guys doing?
I think we're pretty good. I mean, I'm sort of retired, so I'm enjoying that.
But there's something different about Alan than the previous shows we've done. He's not in his like home office. That looks like something different there.
Where are you?
We're in the company headquarters here in Waltham, Mass.
Oh, you're in Waltham.
Yeah.
For some reason didn't realize that.
And the team built this incredible video studios, sparing no expense, I might add, which makes my CFO cry a little bit. But beautiful studio here. They can make this look like almost anything.
Are we going to get to use it when we're there?
Absolutely.
Well, it looks great, and you look really happy. You look like you're in good fighting shape, ready to go to bat at PegaWorld.
Oh, it's a really exciting time. It's kind of like the work that we've been doing for, God forbid, 4 decades has had kerosene poured on it and is just lighting up. The level of interest, the level of engagement, and candidly, it's really had a very exciting and dramatic impact on how we engage with clients.
How has that happened? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it used to be that, before we introduced AI and Blueprint into the architecture here, we had a tremendously powerful workflow and decisioning engine that people could do lots of stuff with, but it could be a little hard to learn, and it could take a while for people to understand. And some of the concepts were a little abstract. So it took a long time to get, for example, our sellers or our services people up the curve, and they would often want to go repeatedly to meet with a customer to convince the customer to even do a demo. Today, every salesperson within their first month of joining is qualified to sit down with a client and create a blueprint, a really intricate, personal, sensible blueprint specific to that organization and that customer after they've been here less than a month. And in their very first meeting, it's completely changed how we engage with clients, and I think it's changed how clients think of us.
How's that? Have you seen actual, like, let's call it measurable and relatively immediate, nothing's absolutely immediate, but relatively immediate benefit from that? Are you sort of seeing that more impact over longer term, or both?
Well, I think the true impact will be longer term, but we just reported a blowout first quarter where the results were really excellent. And I'll tell you, I think that the way we have changed how we engage with clients, it has a lot to do with why the business is growing and why we are being successful with them.
So I want to go back to 2006, that clip I played, and you were giving your closing argument for 2006 PegaWorld. First of all, it's hard to believe it was 19 years ago.
That's astonishing.
It's kind of crazy. So I mentioned that everything you said, it seems like it could apply today, with the exception of BPM and AI. Am I picking up? Is that pretty much?
I'm gonna contest that.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you hypothesized that you could just take the term BPM and replace it with the buzzword du jour, which would have to be AI or agents, and say the exact same thing. But I'll tell you what's really interesting, and I think what is powering a lot of how people are looking at our business here, is that what we've been able to do is take the AI and make it AI and BPM,
right,
as opposed to flipping one out for the other. And I think that's super, super critical, because the AI helps you reason and identify opportunities to replace a legacy system with something that's going to be a lot better. And the AI gives you that intellectual thought process that's really very, very invigorating, lets you rethink what you're doing. But the BPM, which the AI creates, then gives you the reliability of execution that businesses need. You know, there was a competitor of ours, not a big competitor, but a loose competitor, that published that they were super excited that they had 95% accurate AI. Now, I'll tell you, that's fine for brainstorming. It's even fine for designing. It's not fine if you're running, not fine if you're operating, not fine if you're providing advice to customers on things that you need to be 100%. And candidly, where you need to be able to explain to a regulator what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You don't just get to say, I'm going to fire off the AI and it's going to make the decisions. You need to, we believe, marry the power of AI, and we do this with Blueprint, with the power of process, so that you can create all the processes you need to handle all the variations that will make the business effective, but do it in just a much easier and much more friendly way.
Well, you know, one of the things about Pega I've always liked, and I've said this probably hundreds of times, is that, look, your foundation was BPM, and then you saw the need for CRM, and you bought Cordiant, and you did what you had to do. Then you went to a customer experience, then you expanded that to engagement. Now you're involved with AI, but the foundational piece was never, ever gone, ever. It wasn't, and was never replaced. It just evolved, right? And what that led to for you guys is a story. I mean, I don't know what your churn rates are over that history, but I'm guessing they're really low. So because you didn't, no customer hearing the story you had to tell, and I'm going back to your original customers, because I know you've talked about some who've been with you just about from the beginning or the beginning, felt like, oh my God, they're going to abandon us. Right? Because you always had your foundation and you never abandoned it either, which is actually one of the powers of Pega, really.
Well, we're super, our first two clients who went live, God forbid, in 1984.
That is so funny.
In an era where the Pega engine would run on DEC VAXs and IBM CICS.
Holy God.
Just to give you an idea of how much, the technology has changed. And we've had 5 complete generations, major generational changes in the technology. And now we're actually in the midst of a 6th with this powering of AI. Those 2 first clients, Citibank and Bank of America.
I was wondering, I was going to chime in. I was going to ask you that, but thank you for putting it out there, because every year I ask you if they're still on board. All right.
Yeah, they are. And, obviously we do a lot more for both of them than we did in 1984. But we really, I think respecting your customers and really thinking how you bring them forward is the really responsible way for a company in the tech business, I think, to engage with clients. I know a lot of them don't do that, but that's very much central, to be blunt, to our culture. If you ask people about our values, that taking care of customers is completely central. And that story, from 1984 is also central to how we think about ourselves.
Did they speak at your? I don't remember. I don't remember hearing from them in recent years. Did you ever think of having one of them on just to talk about 40 years of Pega?
The challenge I have is, I think it's actually wonderful that we've had this long and storied history, partially because I believe we've learned so much about where the industry is going from having lived through this and had this experience. And both of them have spoken at our conferences, and I'm sure will do so again. But the reality is, sometimes, I think people think when they hear we're a 40-year-old company, they think that what we're doing might not be absolutely state of the art. And I will tell you that, and you've seen it, it's nothing further from the truth.
Right.
What's key is to be able to really have the nerve to reinvent yourself truly across the entire technology stack, to throw out what you've done before and learn new things, but bring along the elements that you should from those experiences. That's what I think the team here has done really well.
Well, yeah, and you've done it well for 40 years too.
So, go ahead.
More to come, I hope.
So 2 things that I always think about when I think about Pega is layer cake, and center out. So how does that manifest itself in 2025? I remember blueprints last year, and there's a number of things that was not just blueprints. I think Socrates is involved. There's a couple other things out there, but now everybody's talking about agentic. How does layer cakes and center out kind of manifest this case itself in the agentic era here?
I think it's perfect for the agentic era. And one of the things we're super excited about is that every workflow in a Pega system is inherently agentic. And what I mean by that, and this is the center out concept, the workflows run at the center of your business. The workflows and the decisions, those really are what your business offers to your clients. The AI has made it so much easier to create all the variations you need of those, and you're able to curate them and check them out. But those workflows at the heart of your business, every single one of them is agentic, which means I can actually have a conversation with my application. And if you go in, your blueprint actually changes literally every 1 to 2 weeks. And some of the advances in it recently have included the ability to have an agentic conversation with an app that you've just created in Blueprint. So you create the app and you can begin talking to it. And what's amazing about it is it uses the power of the language models to be able to do a brilliant job conversing. But then it uses the predictability of the workflows to make sure that the things you go through are going to be consistent from client to client, are going to be provable, are going to be, fair, all the things you really need to be able to run an enterprise. So we've married the center out architecture is a perfect architecture for agents to be able to operate in, because the agents use the power of the center to do their work. And of course, the layer cake, that's where we put all of our assets so that we're able, when we're designing these workflows, to say, hey, here's some stuff that goes across the entire organization, as opposed to things that might apply to just one division or another division or one region or another region. The ability to layer those elements together provides reuse and provides visibility and stability to what's going on. So I think it's all a perfect picture with agents. It's funny. I see a lot of people falling into some real traps, mental traps and technical traps with their use of agents. And we've been very in tune to this. And what you're going to see us announcing at PegaWorld are some things that just blow the doors off how agents can be used.
Come on, you can tell us now. Nobody's.
That's right. That's right.
Well, let me ask you a question. You talk to lots of vendors, including vendors I respect a lot, despite whether they've made a particularly bad technical choice of late.
The only person who qualifies the word respect a lot.
No, I do. There are a lot. Look, there are a lot of having a customer base, growing a company is hard, and I've got a lot of respect for any company that's able to do that. But if you take a look at things you may have heard people talking about the need for a control tower to control thousands of agents that are going to be written from prompts. You may have heard other vendors offer prompt libraries or prompt authoring tools, where you go in, you author some big prompt, and magically that prompt will run your business in a way that's going to be reliable or God knows what. The reason we think that's a trap is it looks beautiful. It's magical. What language models do is just really, really, candidly, almost completely unbelievable. So it looks great in the demo, but when you're doing this and you're actually running your business on a collection of prompts, when the data comes in, when you go and get information from a customer or a backend system, and it's slightly different, those prompt-driven language models will try to reason in runtime. They'll reason in the moment. And that might be great for like crafting an advertising campaign with an expert. But for actually doing a business process or doing work, that's not going to lead to reliable results. Small variations in the data can lead to very, very different outcomes, or even slightly different outcomes are unacceptable in most of the businesses we work in. And what I'll tell you is people haven't even thought of what's going to happen when the new version of the language model comes out. You know, new language models are being shipped a couple times a year in some cases. Well, when a new version comes out and you want to use it, how in the world would you test all those prompts again? By being able to use the language models for reasoning, for insight at design time, and use them to really pound out all the variations that you need to be able to really handle your clients. And then at runtime, use the language models only for semantics. Use the language models just to interpret between the business user and the library of approved workflows. Provides a way to get that reasoning, but to do it at a time and in a way that's completely safe. And then to use the power of language models to allow you to converse in different ways, different languages, all the things that they're spectacular at. So I think by dividing the problem up in the way that we have, we're giving our clients something that is going to be structurally better than a lot of what the other companies are thinking.
Let's to be fair to all the other vendors, not all of them, but many of the other vendors, they're all addressing something like that, one way or the other. For example, simplification is a huge issue for them, right? Speed is another issue for them, right? In the, the reason agentic is getting such, hype and play is because theoretically it takes some of the prompt out of the hands of the people, right, so to speak. That metaphorically.
I think it takes it out of the hands of the end user worker.
Right, exactly.
But it puts it into a universe of people who are designing the way the business wants to work as a collection of thousands of prompts. And I'm just telling you that from my experience and our expectation, that's a pretty complicated thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very intricate. And, will some prompts perhaps interfere with others? How do you create the right corpus of prompts and manage them? I think we're going to see from a number of the other styles sort of a re-emergence of the problems that RPA, robotic process automation, faced when you had lots of really kind of siloed engines where we would have said, and we did say, what you really want are end-to-end processes,
right,
that you can go through.
Well, you had companies like Celonis and others who are working on those issues. And I will tell you this, because it is something that, as much as I'm, let's say I have more skepticism about the hype I hear from everywhere, and I'm highly skeptical about how far along it is with most companies. In your case, I'm really not that skeptical because I know what you do and I know how you work. So I know that when I hear it, it's pretty much ready to go. And so, but that said, the early state, if you looked at kind of when people started addressing it, the way they started addressing it was by just changing the idea of or coming up with other kinds of language models. If you remember, there was large language model, that was it, and then you take a subset of that and build the prompts and blah 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 blah. Then there were narrow language and wide language and small language and and industry specific language and models, and that was a stage one of all of that, was just figuring out something that could address a problem, deal with a problem, and execute well in a short and more simple way. And ultimately, we're looking at, the reason that, and you can disagree with me if you want, but the reason I think that, we know it, and you've been around since '84 as a company, so you know this, but I think, let's say AI predated you by 30 years, right? So there was AI in the 50s, Dartmouth and the whole thing. But the reason it took off the way it took off was not because it was AI, but because it was natural language, conversational, and you got way faster answers, right? And that was it. It had nothing to do with AI. It had to do with how AI was executed and how it presented, right? And so, you look at things that opens a different kind of door in terms of how to deal with it. I think one of the reasons Blueprint was my product of the year, again, it wasn't formally, but informally, was because that answers the speed and simplicity. All of it's there, right? And that was mind-blowing how well you did that so quickly, because you built it, pretty fast. But
we actually started at the end of 2022 when we saw what OpenAI was doing. I personally was blown away, because we knew things like that would come, but I hadn't expected them for years. In 2019, Rob Walker, who is our head of AI, that came in with when we brought in Cordiant into the family. Rob Walker, on the main stage at PegaWorld, put up 4 pictures of Rembrandts. And he said one of these was painted by a computer. And of course, you couldn't tell the difference. He said, this is this thing called generative AI. And it's going to be a big deal, but it will probably take about 10 years. Well, lo and behold, 3.5 years later, it's like, whoa, it's here. So we completely, in 2023 and 24, we completely changed our development agenda and completely changed how we were thinking of some of the work we were doing to try to make Pega easy to use and more powerful, and said, we have a chance here, and that's reflected in Blueprint. We have a chance here to really use this to completely rethink the design process and to bring insight from our best practices, from the open internet, from customer-specific information, to bring all of those together in a unique way. And I'll tell you, if you haven't seen it this year, to give it the award for this year too, which I guarantee you'll do if you actually play with it.
I'm going to be there, so I will.
Well, we've added so many capabilities to it, and because it runs on Pega.com, it's it's really based on a combination of a SaaS app talking to a Pega system. And that means we're updating this thing to improve it really dramatically, and literally every 1 to 2 weeks. So I think you should check it out. We'll see you again, of course, and we'll be able to give you a personal demo. But there's nothing like being hands-on. And
I'm going to actually build a blueprint to help the Yankees win the World Series. Just letting you know.
Oh boy,
that would be. I think that might violate some of our standards.
The usage.
I've actually recommended to people, look, the positive about moving to Boston, great tech community, everything else. The negative is the Red Sox and the Celtics and the Patriots, and just so you know.
Hey, before we let you go, of course, we're going to get a little taste of what's going to happen at PegaWorld beyond the Blueprint thing. But one of the things that I think there has been some generally industry-wide kind of struggle with is how to price this stuff. You're seeing companies talk about it a lot, talk about the what their capabilities are and all that, but they've been kind of reticent to talk about how much it's actually going to cost. I know partial of that, I guess, is they're grappling with how much it's going to cost them, because we just talked about Microsoft with was it 50 trillion things a month, and all of that is power consumption and trying to get all the infrastructure set and being able to figure that out before they feel comfortable with how much it's going to cost these folks. How do you guys look at that aspect of this?
Yeah, so we don't have the problem most of our competitors do, because about 5 years ago, we stopped pricing by user. And the reason we did that is we found that our systems were massively reducing the numbers of users. So we instead began pricing based on the work. What are the number of work items that is done in a month or a year, and a price based on quantity. So we don't have a pricing structural problem. But what I'll tell you is really exciting Paul, about you were asking what's different and similar. The way that we do this, where we do the design using the reasoning and the power of the LLM, when Blueprint is running, that's chewing through tokens, right? That's just really doing logic, thinking what the best way to do stuff is, putting it all together. But at runtime, which is a factor of 1,000 more usage than design time, if you think about the ratios at a typical sort of company, at runtime, we're running workflows. We're using the LLM just for language interpretation.
Wow.
But the efficiency of actually the runtime environment. So it's something a lot of people, I think, Brent, that was a good question. A lot of people don't appreciate, how non-green some of this stuff is here. And, we love this, that the workflows are literally 100 times more efficient than running the LLMs. And since they've been authored by the LLMs, you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, workflows are green friendly.
That's right.
They are
eco-friendly workflows.
All right. So what are we going to be looking at? A month. It's literally a month away. What are we going to be? Give us a little tease. Not a lot, but a little tease. What's going to happen?
And then I have one final afterwards.
We're gonna show the next generation of how enterprises are going to move to agentic processing, and it is hold me to the standard of it being mind-blowing, because it is truly amazing. The other thing you're going to hear is real-life practical examples of clients. On the main stage, we're going to have Unilever, we're going to have Rabobank, we're going to have Verizon talking about how they've used Pega to really radically change parts of their business. I'm not going to steal their thunder, but we're very excited about that. And then we're going to have more than 80 sessions where we have primarily clients talking about how they've put blueprints live, talk about how this has already changed the way and the speed with which they can design and implement change in their business. So it's going to be a very, very intense set of sessions. And what I'm especially excited about is we've got a 100,000 square foot exhibition hall that's going to have over 200 live demos.
Wow.
That people can go and actually talk to the engineers, see how things work, feel it, touch it. And, I think if I had to use a word that we've been using internally about how we're changing how we operate as a company, and you'll see this at PegaWorld, it's experiential. And the whole blueprint selling and delivery methodology is a very experiential methodology. And we're going to make sure that PegaWorld really is a sort of high touch, high content, experiential experience.
That is good thinking. Okay, two last questions real quick. First one, who's Connie?
Gentlemen don't tell.
Secondly, you said you were drinking lots of wine. I guess two parts there. First, you still drink lots of wine. And two, what's your favorite current? It could be a spirit, doesn't even have to be a wine.
Well, I've moved on from as much wine. My favorite spirit is Belvani. It's a Scotch.
Yeah, I know it.
And I like it a lot.
Okay. 15-year-old, 12-year-old, certain expression.
The 12's really good. There's a 19 that's really good. 21. It's all good.
You need to come. You need to come to my house. That's all I can tell you. I have 635 bottles of spirits at my house. Balvenie among them.
I will drop the pin on Google Maps.
Yeah. All right.
Bring
on it.
Bring a big glass with you, apparently.
No, you don't have to. I have all the big glasses you need.
I'm sure he's well equipped.
Any change of opinion on the metaverse?
If I recall, when I told you that the key phrase in the metaverse was a verse.
Right. You were totally right.
You still going with that?
It would appear that critical view was at least so far vindicated.
Yes,
So,
Totally. I would
Very
say
cool.
actually totally vindicated. So
Absolutely. Alan, thanks again for doing this every year.
awesome again.
It's a great tradition. We love it, and definitely looking forward to seeing you and everybody else, the whole team, next month in Vegas for PegaWorld.
And when
well,
I see you,
Brent, thank you so much.
I'm going to see you. I'm going to tell you how Rob Walker and I conspired to get you to say something on stage one time.
Wow. Some intrigue
Bring
there.
your scotch.
Maybe I will, actually. If you'll drink a
Not a bad
glass with
idea.
me, I'll bring it.
All right. Well, on behalf of Alan Trefler, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we will see you in Vegas in literally 1 month.
1 month.
Exactly. Yes.
And Brent, bring up you know who.
This is a special.
All right.
Yeah, we
right.
gotta keep
Alan, you get to be the smile that we go out with. So congratulations.
Love that.
Okay, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Take care.